I've never used this phrase normally, but quite interesting day at Lib Dem conference in Bournemouth yesterday. Let's talk to John Rentoul, who's chief political commentator at The Independent. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Julia.
You've been watching this, so we don't have to. Thank you for that. Sir Ed Davey, the Lib Democrat leader, not a popular figure in the country at large, and not even very popular among Lib Dem members, it has to be said. He's been facing a number of questions about housing policy, about taxes and the like, but crucially, what do the Lib Dems do if and when Labour need to have a coalition partner to form the next government? Because although the polls currently, although going in the wrong direction since those announcements on net zero from Rishi Sunak, but they currently say Keir Starmer will be the next Prime Minister, there are many who feel that actually it's going to be a more close-run thing than they think, and Labour will be the largest party, but they may need to have some partners, whether it's the SNP and or the Lib Dems. So what is the latest? Because this seemed to change pretty much every 20 minutes yesterday.
No, I don't think it has changed, actually, Julia. I think the fundamental contradiction remains. Because there's a contradiction, it sounds as if they're saying different things at different times. I mean, the reason Ed Davey doesn't go on about Brexit, he may have mentioned it once, but he thinks he got away with it. The reason he doesn't go on about Brexit is because he wants to win Tory-leaning votes in Tory seats in the south of England.
Well, hold on a minute. Those Tory-leading votes, those tend to be the Remainers, don't they?
Well, in around London, yes, but not further afield, not in the Midlands or the southwest, where the southwest in particular is a bit leavy. And
a bit leavy. I love it. A bit leavy.
And there's a lot of target Lib Dem seats there. So obviously he doesn't want to put them off by talking about Brexit. But on the other hand, he has put them off by making it absolutely clear that there's no way he would support the Tories in a hung parliament. He would prop up a Labour government.
Well, and that's where there was a lot of anger from a lot of Lib Dems. You know, they tried to be all things to all men and women in 2010 election, and of course they ended up being the people able to basically the kingmakers. As it was, of course, Labour didn't have enough. Even with the Lib Dems, they couldn't have enough MPs to form a government.
Oh yes, they could.
No, they did. No, good God, I was there at the time. I had to cover all of that as a fiscal journalist.
The Lib Dems were genuinely kingmakers in that situation. They could have chosen either party.
They could have. It would have been a minority government, as it was at least.
It would have been more difficult with Labour, yes.
It would have been a minority government. The Tories. Okay, they went in. Okay, they went in with the Tories, and as it was, the Tories ended up winning a majority in 2015, and the Lib Dems basically out on their ear, losing huge amounts of. This is the issue. It may be that a lot of Lib Dems will say, well, we're really happy if you go in, because more on the left side, if you go in with Labour. But at the end of the day, if they do go in with Labour, it's always the junior partner that gets punished. And so they'll be held to account for every decision that Labour makes and blamed for it, but they'll get none of the credit. So is it worth their while to go into another coalition?
No, they're not. They won't go into a coalition. They got far too stung last time. You're absolutely right. They will support the Labour government issue by issue. They'll vote against some things. But they will essentially prop up.
So we're talking about a Callaghan situation in the late 70s where it's just on each individual vote they're there or not there. Sort of, well, I suppose like the DUP for the Tories under Theresa May.
Well, there was a formal deal then, supply and confidence it was called. Yeah. I don't think the Lib Dems will go even that far. But the fundamental point is that they have ruled out propping up a Tory government. So they have no bargaining power whatsoever, no leverage at all. They cannot demand proportional representation from a Labour government, for example, because Keir Starmer would just turn around and say, well, what are you going to do? Vote to put the Tories in. And, of course, they've ruled that out.
Not very good politicking. And then, of course, we know that voters are very unhappy with parties that go into these coalitions and offer to do deals because they want to know what they're going to get. That's one of the reasons why most of us are still in favour of a first-past-the-post system, which you know what you're going to get.
Well, you do and you don't. We didn't know in 2010 what we were going to get, but yes, absolutely. And what we know...
Yeah, but it wasn't interesting after 2010. There's been, many we've got as a fairly successful coalition government, actually, certainly for the Tories, that actually people went back to a Tory majority.
Yeah. But what we do know what we're going to get from the Lib Dems, which is that they're going to support a Labour government, which I think cuts against their campaign for soft Tory votes
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, the guru of polling analysis, Sir John Curtis, he said at a Lib Dem conference fringe meeting, he was actually talking to them about how they are losing votes to Labour because of their reluctance to talk about Brexit, because they know that actually they're all Ramonas and want to they end it without even a referendum if it was up to them, and they are caught between those two posts, aren't they?
Well, they are, and the problem is that apart from Brexit, I mean, on Brexit is the one issue where they could strike out and create a distinctive position, because they could advocate rejoin. I mean, there are no big parties apart from the SNP who want to rejoin. They only want Scotland to rejoin.
Yeah.
So they could carve out a distinctive position, but at the moment the Lib Dems don't have any distinctive position.
And they did so well the last election, I mean, relative to previous elections in recent years, simply because they did have that very clear stance. Let's also talk about housing very briefly, because the former Lib Dem leader, Farron, took aim at the party's youth wing for wanting to re-establish their pledge to have sort of top-down housing targets. Here's, though, what Tim Farron had to say.
Houses that they want, but never, ever, ever the homes that we desperately need, especially that young people actually need. The authors of Amendment 1 do not mean it, but it is pure Thatcherism. A laissez-faire, free market, winner takes all bonus for those who see houses as capital investments, holiday hideaways, nice little pension pots, but not homes for the millions who need them.
A fascinating speech there, John Rentoul, from the former Lib Dem leader Tim Farron. But I find the idea that building more houses is a Thatcherite thing. Everyone wants more houses, apart from the NIMBYs who don't want them built near them.
What was he talking about? I mean, the motion was for a target of 380,000 houses a year. Targets are not Thatcherism. I mean, I just don't know what he was on about.
It's quite bizarre. Well, look, at least they weren't talking about legalising pot, which is what they're normally talking about. John Rentoul, great to talk to you as always, Chief Political Commentator for The Independent.